It is Dom time. Good Thursday. Welcome in, everyone. 855-839-1210 is how you get in. We got a great side question that Dan is much in favor of. I heard Dawn toward the end of the show, and this is a big moment that Republicans, every single one, voted to keep males out of female sports. Something that you might think would be an easy thing. But then again, Democrats have trouble with gender. Dan, this will be cut for. Here's Secretary of Education Cardona. And Dan, when he wouldn't answer this question about defining a woman, I just would have said, who's going to flinch first, sir? Because I'm going to keep on asking you again and again. I'm going to come over and yell it in your ear, you clown. Here's how it sounded.
Can you please define for me, what is a woman?
Our focus at the department is to provide equal access to students.
What does HHS say the definition of a woman is?
I lead the Department of Education, and my job is to make sure that all students have access to public education, which includes co-curricular activities.
So you're not going to answer my
as
question.
well.
They just won't answer. They just won't answer. I mean, it's just a new tactic. They're just going to go up there, hold them in contempt then until they answer. Go sit in the back room until you tell us. And you can say, Dan, it's not the traditional definition. Give us something else. We just want you on record. So this vote on keeping transgendered / men out of women's sports went down 219 to 213. All Democrats voted against it. Yes, Brian Fitzpatrick, Dan, people sending me emails, voted for it on the Republican side to keep men out of women's sports. He did. All right, so check that box. Now, Dan's trying to get on a group, and you can give me the names in a second here, Dan, who two groups. They self-identify as radical feminist, and they say they're left. One says, I am a registered Democrat, always have been. I think it's the height of hypocrisy for Democratic leadership, including the president, to champion the rights of women and girls to abortion, which we totally support, while simultaneously denying the rights of women and girls to single-sex spaces. You have the two groups, Dan.
Yeah, one of them is the Women's Liberation Front and Women's Declaration International USA.
Okay. So these are both national groups. I don't know how many members they have, whatever. They self-identify as this. So every time we get a Riley Gaines or someone like that on, I try to make the point in this transgender nonsense, the shenanigans that are going on. The low-hanging fruit to win, this is about winning. It's not just about bloviating, is to take them out on the field of women's sports. These athletes are everything that you would want in women, whatever side of the aisle you're on. We've interviewed a lot on Reading, Writing, and Reason, including Riley Gaines. They represent the best. They represent something that's so good that over the last 25 years, females have had the chance to gain from sports the same thing that I gained growing up in South Philly. It's a wonderful thing. Why would we tarnish it? Because progressives will do that with every nice thing imaginable. They don't care. It's the same thing with the whales. There's more on that today, and Jeff Van Drew will be here at 2 o'clock.
Those poor whales.
Idiots like Donald Norcross, complete idiots, right? 9 Congress people who are Democrats from Jersey, I think it's 9, all signed a letter saying they know this is just ships that are going too fast and it has nothing to do with the wind farms.
Sure.
These geniuses.
Yeah.
Just outright geniuses.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. Keep on moving. Why? Once they get their marching orders, what is the higher priority in their mind? They don't care about reality. They don't care about something right in front of them. For example, the other day when they were in New York, they had all those victims in front of them. These callous progressives couldn't help themselves because they're there to throw themselves in front of Alvin Bragg and protect him. Go after the victims even. They don't care. Once it's identified to them what the goal is, the higher order in their mind, they will destruct anything else imaginable. All right, so 855-839-1210, you get on board. But, yeah, that's the line of it, Dan. This will be cut 13. But not all is lost today when it comes to women, because one of the most radical of the Democrats, Rose DeLauro, you've seen this woman, okay?
Is she the one that looks like, have you ever seen The Incredibles?
I have not, but
Disney Pixar. There's a character that creates uniforms for The Incredibles,
Right.
and she has like the circle glasses with like the hair that's like kind of like like it kind of frames the face very strangely. Is
yeah,
that
they
DeLauro?
probably, yeah, that's it. They
Yeah.
probably used that character. They probably got it from her. I mean, it is, even for strange Democrat women, this is among the strangest. She had Mayor Pete there, speaking of strange, on this day when every Democrat voted against. Their claim is the bill is bullying. Trans children are being bullied here. Every one of them voted against it, but she got Mayor Pete in, and she commended Mayor Pete. Why is that? Listen.
You also plan to make important investments to address the roadway safety crisis, including the critical funding that would accelerate the development. And this is an area I've written to you about, of the use of female dummies in crash testing.
Oh,
Start to fight the
Equality,
gender inequity
though.
among vehicle safety and crash victims.
gender equity.
So praising Mayor Pete today, the big guy, for using female dummies in crash tests on a day that real women are pushed around. Now, we told you, and I can only say so much on this. You'll have to tune into tomorrow. That's not just a tease. We're going to take you inside tomorrow, though, something big that's breaking tonight. I told you it's out there in the media that the if you're paying attention, tonight will be a special school board meeting of the Central Bucks School District. And at least according to reports, the 150 pages or so of a report commissioned by that school district, Bill McSwain, you may remember, was the lawyer commissioned to do it, to examine, are they bullying transgendered LGBTQ plus ABC kids? That will drop tonight. You can stream it. You can follow it. Just Google it. You'll be able to follow the school board meeting. But we will bring you something deep inside that tomorrow. I promise you. All right, that you're not going to get from the rest of the media. And I think that's what, is it 6:30 tonight, the meeting, Dan, or is it?
I think that's what he said.
Yeah, I think it's 6:30. So it's a biggie. Expect tomorrow the media in full, all-out attack mode after tonight's school board meeting. At least the way that I see it, that's where I think they'll go. All right, 855-839-1210. You get on board, and AT&T and Verizon Wireless. You just push pound 1210.
Yeah, 6:30.
6:30.
Yeah.
Before I give you the side question, and I intentionally didn't tell Dan on this because I don't want to make him the last time. I wanted to wait. The last time a microphone got shattered, well, got knocked off its hinges here.
Yes.
You may remember that. It's up on my Twitter still. It was a great moment. Greg Stocker said, that's the type of radio I want. Now get out there and break more microphones.
He's proud of me for it.
Well, Dan, remember last week, and this is when you were under fire, some agreed with you, but they willed it onto the all out. The one guy from Lafayette Hills calling. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
A week after city officials in Philadelphia held a media event at a North Philadelphia recreation center to tout the brand new state-of-the-art gigantic universal surveillance cameras to improve safety for children, a 15-year-old boy was shot in the center's playground area
But, come on.
at 4:15. Broad
It's not going to
daylight.
happen over. Like it's got to be
Oh,
ingrained
wait
in
a
the
minute. Now
community
it's a
that
Krasner approach.
it's happening now, and it's gonna. Is the kid gonna be caught easier?
Well, even the Inquirer says marginally, and several people.
What's marginally mean?
Well, he may be caught more, but I mean, this is just a deflection. Then Larry Krasner's got to decide. So You
That's
want to
true,
prevent
yeah. Well, that's the thing is that's kind of what we landed on when we had the conversation about 4K.
Yes.
What the hell does it matter? What's our conversation even matter if the DA here in Philadelphia is not going to prosecute anyway? So
right. Well,
yeah, like if we want to go through it again, yeah, I am leaning in favor of more surveillance to make jobs easier for police. But at the same time, these liberals calling for this are turning a blind eye to Larry Krasner. So it's kind of baseless in calling for it.
yes, this happened at the Marine Dendy Recreation Center, 10th and Jefferson and Oxford Streets, 4:15 p.m., shot in the back. Investigators reviewing the video saw an unidentified assailant. And of course, he had on not quite a ski mask, but something like that, a hoodie, the whole thing, who rode a bicycle into the playground area and began firing at the victim.
It's called a balaclava.
Yes. I don't think that's what he had
No?
on this one. No.
Kids
Evidence
wearing today.
markers were placed next to the playground equipment where the shots were fired. So here's the debate that we had that day. If you missed it, I think it's a great debate. And it's not just on these cameras here. I think we already have enough of a surveillance state. I don't think when I weigh the two sides, and I include in all this, Dan, you didn't say this, but I include in it the red light cameras, the speed cameras, and everything else. Look, do we want to watch Americans more? Do we want to put all that on them? I'm even taking the radical step of saying, I just see this as another deflection. It's another way to kick this down the road, that it comes down to one thing. Well, many things, but Krasner at the head of them in Philadelphia. And as long as Dan, I told this to Roe this morning, as battle hardened as some of these people are, these candidates running for mayor, some of them are real tough politicians, et cetera. I don't say that in a bad way, right? Being in the ring with them, I actually think some of them think they might be able behind the scenes to talk to Krasner. And the next debate we're going to do, I'm going to explore that a little bit. Maybe I am even more warped. I don't think you can talk to Krasner about anything in any way under any circumstance.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's how he's not going to listen.
Why can't people accept that? Is it bravado that when you get to a certain point, you think you can persuade anybody of anything? Is it because deep down, we don't know what to do with evil characters like Krasner? Yeah, I got it set. You don't know what to do with them. So what do normal humans do? They ignore the reality and they come up with more cameras, more this, more that, more everything else. Krasner has to be dealt with in a blunt, all-out pushback. That's the only thing that might work. And even I'm not sure if that'll work with him. That's how emboldened he is. You're not going to talk with him behind the scenes saying, Larry, can't you, on the retail theft, can't you prosecute retail theft? No, he's not going to do it. How often do you have to be told by this guy that? I'd love to hear. Dan, you have a thought on that? Isn't that a human reaction?
Yeah.
That somebody like this, you just can't accept it, so you kid yourself. He is the real deal. He is. Give him credit. He's a stone-cold, out-of-control ideologue of the highest order you'll find in the country. And he's not going to listen to reason, persuasion, anything else. He's going to do whatever he wants to do.
You see it on the Philadelphia Reddit all the time. You have progressives out there saying, no, progressive policies are indeed the future. That's where we need to go. But Krasner's just the wrong vessel. He's not,
He's
the right
typical of it.
He is typical of it. Yeah.
And
Look at everywhere. Look at all the progressive prosecutors.
They're petty authoritarians.
Yes.
All right. So the great camera debate. All right. Take it easy this time. We don't have a backup microphone.
I'm willing to defend my point again.
Move it past North Philly to the hall. I'm against all this. We already have enough surveillance, enough of this stuff, because it's creeping. Do you want to live in a surveillance state? Does it make you a hair safer? Maybe.
Hassan Bin Sober on Twitter writes in, seems to me that these cameras don't prevent crime, but merely document crime.
That's right. They don't deter it either. See, that's the key thing. Are we going to see now, Dan, here's what would happen if this were real. If this were real, Outlaw, Kenny, and Larry Krasner would be on the play gym 5 minutes after this happened to say, I pledge to you, with the use of these cameras, we are going to hunt down this individual. Actually use the word hunt down. We are sending squadrons of our best detectives. And I promise you, within 2 days, we're going to have this person in custody. And then we're going to show you what happens, because we believe this can help deter. Do we see any of that? No. My proof of this is just another deflection. That's all that it is. And it does take away some degree of liberty. Would the people at the pickleball court want to be on a camera all day long? No, they're insulated over in Chestnut Hill. Let the people at 10th and Jefferson be on the camera all day long. I think that's a real thing.
If you're not doing anything wrong, if you're not doing anything wrong, why?
Because we don't want to live in a society where there's no privacy.
You just have the bait out there for me, and like it's
All
so
right,
hard
yes.
not to chomp at
Watch
it.
that microphone. You're moving it back and forth a lot.
Yeah, it is moving. It is moving here.
All right. Now, let me give the side question before we start
Yes, please.
festivities here. Based upon nothing that I saw, we had something else, but suddenly Dan says we have some other Dan guy on the show today.
Dan's are taking it over today. We got a Daniel coming on today at 12:30 to discuss marijuana.
Yeah, today is 420
420,
day.
yeah.
Oh, man, we're going to need multiple microphones in this. And we have Dan Borowski doing Dan Time with Dom. So
Yeah.
we got a lot of Dan stuff. Hit us with that all-time Dan. First, last name, Danielle, Danny. Any of that, and it could be real or fictional. I'll take Lieutenant Dan off, one of my favorites. How about Gary Sinise on? Usually around this time of the year, maybe we'll get him back on. So hit us with your all-time Dan, Danielle, Danny. I can't think of any other derivation of that word.
It's crazy you say Lieutenant Dan, because I was actually going to take another Lieutenant Dan off the border, but Lieutenant Daniels, and that being Lieutenant Daniels from The Wire.
Very good one.
Yeah.
All right, so Daniels, any derivation of Dan?
How about another one? Can I take one more?
Yes.
Just because I think he's my personal favorite Dan, that being Danny DeVito.
I think I get tired of Danny DeVito.
Do you?
Stop it already
Do you?
with the mics. You
Oh,
know?
I love it.
You know why? I don't like Joe Pesci anymore. It's too
Why?
much.
Why?
I saw him in Lethal Weapon, etc. He's not believable in Casino either. Not in the slightest. He's not going around beating guys up. Come on. 855-839-1210. You get a line. By the way, Dane, if you can track this down,
is Joe Pesci here on
if
the
you
show
can
today?
find this, our buddy, one of the radicals, really, of the Democrat, Jaya Powell. Have you ever seen her, the Democrat from Wisconsin?
Yeah.
She was in the debate with Van Drew. We have some of Van Drew. She said that immigrants are needed to pick our food and clean our homes.
Oy.
You know, the picking of foods, people don't get too upset with. We just need them to clean our homes, though. Oh, man. Yeah, she stepped in it. Immigrants needed to clean our homes. That's what it's all about with Democrats. Legal or illegal. All right. Yeah, that's right. You're not stabbing me in the throat with a pen, you little creep. Come on. Yeah, no, you're funny with your hairpiece. That's how you're funny. Yes.
Hey, watch the
right,
language, Joe. Watch
all
the
right.
language.
855-839-1210. Jump on board. The water's fine here. Do you want to live in a surveillance state? If you're not doing anything, as Dan the Red said, what do you have to worry about? 855-839-1210. All right, welcome in, everyone. Dom Giordano's show. Dan, I give you the tenor of the people on these police cameras and the shooting. Why are you saying, do you want to live in a surveillance state? We already do. All right. All right.
Yeah, we got that on our YouTube as well.
Yeah, everybody's got to one-up everybody else. They're the purist of that. I get it. I'm saying it's already gone too far. We don't need this. It's not effective. It's just a deflection. All right. That's another thing, too, Dan. The farther you go with this, the more it fuels paranoia that we believe that this is happening all the time, that people are watching, listening, etc. You're going to fuel more of that. Toward what point? Isn't the flaw that we have a non-justice system in Philadelphia? That's why this guy can boldly go and just blow away a guy right in front of the cameras and say, oh, well. And what's the response of the system? Does the system even defend the surveillance and make a big point out of it? Nope. Day before, people going 100 miles an hour the wrong way on the Schuylkill Expressway firing at each other. Do they make a big point out? Nope. It's business as usual.
All right, I'm going to make the point that's going to
Yeah,
get a
okay.
lot of people to
Yeah.
call in, I think. I just, where I stand on this whole surveillance thing is as a conservative, one of my top priorities as a conservative is safety and good policing. And I can't reconcile being pro-police and taking away what I think is, if given to them, this 4K streaming, 4K, mandatory 4K cameras. I'm sorry, not streaming. I'm streaming on YouTube right now.
Right.
I can't reconcile as a conservative who's pro-police taking away their biggest, tool to solving crime.
Well, but the point I would make is it's not about catching someone. It's about deterrence. Does this deter versus the cost, which is another slice of individual freedom by being on cameras, even in a public place?
I think in this current situation, how we have it, just, throwing cameras up there and assuming that, the cameras alone are going to deter. No, there's like the cameras alone aren't going to deter. It's the actions that come with the cameras. And once a criminal culture starts realizing that these cameras are actually coming with, quicker enforcement and
But
quicker,
they're not.
they're not going to because of Krasner. So you're 100% right in
Well,
that. So
and because of the idiot police commissioner.
So I got to say, my argument hits a very strong brick wall at some point because we have Krasner here in Philadelphia, but that doesn't take away the fact that in general, I got to say that I am in favor of 4K if used correctly, and that comes with, a good prosecutor that actually prosecutes crimes.
Okay. All right, fair enough. 855-839-1210. You got the side question here, too. Yesterday, John Fetterman gave his opening meeting. And I might surprise you. I watched this several times, Dan, because people asked me to write a comment, Delaware Valley Journal, stuff like that on it. And I was too late in the day. We were at Dr. Benz's yesterday. More about that later. And when I heard this, I might shock you. Not allowed to do this in talk radio. I so think John Fetterman doesn't know a damn thing that he's doing right now that I thought, you know what? This isn't too bad for the condition I think he's in. You got my point. It's horrible, but seeing the horror of it, I don't think he knows what he is reading even. That's how bad it is. So it doesn't sound, I expected he would just stop talking and saying, I have no words, Dan, and just sit there like that.
It doesn't worry you, though, because I'm with you. It's clear that he's reading here. And, I got to say, and I think you would say, it's absolutely horrible that the guy had these health situations. But we have a sitting senator now that's essentially reading off of the paper. Who's writing what's on the paper?
Well, true. I'm all in agreement. But what I'm saying is, based upon what I think his condition is, as bad as this is, it doesn't sound as bad as his condition is. I don't know if that makes any sense. Maybe I'm making too fine of a
again.
point.
Sorry, I was taking a call
Yeah,
there.
I'm saying I think he is so challenged cognitively and in every way right now that I'm amazed he's able to even produce this as halting as it is. That's how bad I think it is.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to say the Inquirer reaches a new abysmal level. They do a puff piece today after this, and they actually act like he chaired a meeting yesterday. Meaning, again, they don't care. Get used to it. They got that seat with him in it. It's weekend at Bernie's. When you don't care about the presidency, you're really not going to care about a Senate seat in Pennsylvania. All right, here's how it sounded, though. And tell me at which point you're appalled the most.
I call to this hearing of the U.S. Senate Subcommittee on Food and Nutrition, Specialty Crops, Organics, and Research to order. Chairwoman Stabenow and Ranking Member Boozman, thank you so much for coming.
They're on the committee.
I thank you for your leadership on this committee, and I look forward to working with you to pass a farm bill.
Oh, my.
A farm bill that works for small farmers, rural communities, and hungry Americans. I would also like to thank my ranking member, Senator Braun. I look forward to working closely with you. SNAP is one of the most effective programs to fight hunger and poverty in the country. In my time and effort in IFAS, as the mayor of Braddock to lieutenant governor to now, I have heard from Pennsylvanians about their support for SNAP.
All right,
Starts to
Dan,
hurt at some point.
here's why I thought the horror was not quite, I didn't see it. You know, we were doing something yesterday until later. And when I heard all these reports coming out, I thought what somebody was saying, Dan, was in the middle of it. He did something like Eagles, EAG. Remember that in the middle of it?
Yes, yeah.
That's what I thought he was doing. But he just held to that paper. And as he goes through the hearings, he just, to your point, he was just reading from a script of the most elemental level. They could have had him say, I love the Dom Giordano show. And he would have read it. And just the enunciation that he reads a sentence and he goes, food, and stops for an interminable period of time.
And the Eagles are so much better than the Eagles.
That was funny.
No.
This is what. Yeah. So Dan, when you probably heard too when you're coming home. Oh man, he chaired the first hearing. Do you agree with me or no? You think this reaches a 10? I thought it was what. I'm amazed he's able to do this even.
Yeah. It is amazing. I mean,
And I'm past public statements of pity. I'm not in the camp that just thinks that Yoko Ono is the only one that wants to be here. I think he did too.
no,
I'm past
I don't
that.
think he wants to. Like,
Well-
I don't, is he cognitively capable enough to express that he doesn't want to be? Like that's
Mhm.
almost where I'm at now. Is I hate to be and say this, and
Right.
I don't want to get in trouble, but the guy seems like a prisoner at this point.
Well, wait a minute,
of
then.
the DNC.
That's why he didn't get out of bed and do all that stuff and all. And they took him in for treatment, and he submitted to the depression treatment. He didn't say, "No, I'm not going to do this," and fought
But
and did something.
now that he's out of depression treatment, I hope he's better mentally, like from a health standpoint. But
Yeah.
if I don't want to do something, Dom, there's not enough therapy that's going to get me to want to start doing something.
Well, that's true. So I think he does, and that's the full horror.
Okay.
I mean, I despise her, and it comes out today.
Like if the guy wanted to resign, though, and
Right.
do you think he has the ability to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he does. You
Okay.
mean to say, wow, that he's not even cognizant of saying, I resign?
No, I think he is, but I think he's being told behind the scenes, don't resign. We need you here. We need you in this seat because
Well,
he's
I'm sure
essentially a
they're saying
vessel for
that.
whatever the DNC
Yeah.
wants to put out there on a piece of paper that he reads
Right.
back.
But, he still can make a choice to not do it. They put somebody else in. Are you saying it's the wife or the party that makes him
The
do it?
party, his advisors, his staff.
I could see more her. You mean to say if he's that bad, he's just going to listen to the party?
Like, as much as I think Giselle is like Yoko, I don't think she's there in the office every day. I think a memo comes via email to a staffer to say Fetterman needs to take this stance on X, write him something for it. The
Right.
script goes in front of Fetterman and Fetterman reads back the script.
Why would he go along with it then? I mean, what's he afraid of?
I don't know. Like,
I
is
think
it
he's a
losing,
willing participant still.
losing
in
the
his own
power
mind.
he worked his entire life to achieve.
Yeah. I think he's.
So you think, that makes sense. Then.
the
Okay.
horror of it is, that they're all culpable in this, including Josh Shapiro, who has the power to step in and say something publicly, which he won't. The Philadelphia Inquirer is even worse. They tell their readers today, boy, he was happy to be back, and he's talking about SNAP and all. My God. A second grader would say, what's wrong with this guy? All right, coming up, today is 420. You know what that means? Marijuana in the news again. We have another Dan, since this is Dan Day on the side
Yeah,
question,
yeah. Taking over, baby.
who
All these Dans.
is with the family, PennsylvaniaFamily.org, Family Council. And they believe that Josh Shapiro has snuck in some pro-marijuana stuff in the budget, among other things. Is Pennsylvania ready? I'd say, I told Dan the other day, if it were up on the ballot, say in November, it could win 51, 52, 48, something like that, or it could lose legalizing marijuana.
I really think it would be a 60-40. 60-40 split in favor of
Legalizing
marijuana in
My God.
Pennsylvania.
We better
Yeah.
put a camera on you. You're wrong. Come on. Now, Maryland is legalized, and I think it takes effect in June or July. Jersey's already puffing away. Delaware, the bill is on the governor's desk, I believe. So can Pennsylvania hold the line here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dan says 60-40. All right.
I think 60-40. And I wanted to bring on Dan, too, also because he's a guy that knows a lot about the negative implications of marijuana.
Right.
And we hear a lot in the news about the positivity of marijuana, like it's being pushed. And as a guy who, me, myself, another Dan, I'm on the opposite side of the aisle as Dan who's coming on here. But I'd like to hear about the negative side of things as well. And this guy knows a ton about it.
All right. Dan the Red versus Dan the Blue coming up here. Spring is here, and you're probably spending more time outside looking at your home. Does it need repainting again? Here's an incredible permanent solution to that problem, Rhino Shield. Rhino Shield looks like paint, goes on like paint, but it never chips, cracks, or fades. It's ceramic coating. It's guaranteed for life. You never have to paint again. The local Rhino Shield owner, John Gilgee, great guy, friend to the program. You'll be impressed with both the product and the company, and it's perfect for any surface, wood, brick, vinyl, stucco. You get the beauty of fresh paint with the maintenance of vinyl, and it even insulates your home. Comes with a 25-year guarantee that you can transfer if you sell your home. Now, John meets directly with our listeners, and now is the perfect time to call and set up a meeting, especially because he's offering 20% off through the end of the month. Financing is available. Call for details. Call him right now. Save 20% through the end of the month. 844-RHINO-99, 844-RHINO-99, or visit myrhinoshield.com. All right, I'm surrounded by Dans today. That's the side question. All-time Dans, real or fictional, first name, last name, Danielle's, all that stuff. Joining us to talk about always a great issue, and particularly Pennsylvania now surrounded here on 420 Day, legal marijuana.
Just 420, you can call it.
Yes.
Not 420 Day.
Okay.
National Marijuana Day, it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
From the Pennsylvania Family Alliance, Dan Barkowiak joins us to talk about, he's director of communications there, Josh Shapiro and some of this stuff that was put into the budget and how close is Pennsylvania to it. I'm in a camp that says that we put it up for a referendum. I think it would barely sneak by, but it would be close. Jersey, we knew it would pass. Let's go to Dan here on Talk Radio 1210. Hey, Dan, welcome in. Thanks for joining us. Well, Dan, my producer, Dan, yesterday we were talking about this day, remembered something that you guys put out. So what is it? What's the claim about Josh Shapiro and his proposed budget and marijuana?
On marijuana, and it might be Dan Frankel, Representative Frankel, could be Jordan Harris, Appropriations Chair in the House, but Josh Shapiro, certainly our governor, has stated his support for the issue. But the only thing he's referenced is in his budget. He made no mention of it in his budget remarks, but included in it is counting on revenue starting in 2025 with a 20% wholesale tax, which would be one of the highest in the nation. But there was no other details beyond that. So it's frustrating to really kind of bank on that type of kind of revenue when it's really, kind of this vice that we're seeing, and really kind of seeing more addiction, more use of this drug. But then, you look at these politicians that are for this, they've really said nothing this year. I mean, Josh Shapiro loves to take to Twitter. He does dozens of tweets every day. He said nothing about marijuana this year. So it's kind of puzzling. Maybe it's, there's certainly dysfunction in the House, as we've seen. I'd like to think that it's because there is some more evidence coming out that there are harms with full-on legalization. Temple University had a study that just came out last month that looked at the states that are commercializing the sale of marijuana for non-medical use, and they're seeing a rise in adolescents and young adults using. And that certainly is something the CDC, SAMHSA, mainstream science, they understand.
Okay, well, let me
using
intervene and
today's
say on that.
regimen
Okay, I know one of the angles of attack. So that is they overstate how much revenue will be brought in versus the downside. You're right, of the damage somewhat that would be caused. Mine might be more libertarian, though, Dan, to say, as in Jersey, it seems obvious to me, and I think in Pennsylvania, it would be close. But if adults want to do this legally, what's the argument against adults? Is it that you're making it, well, it's going to filter down to kids? Why can't adults make an adult freedom decision on this?
Well, I think you certainly look at what happens with the commercialized sale. Even you take a state like Washington. They have tried to look at a study to say, okay, how are sales going? What is it impacting our communities? And something that they found is, they allow for sales at age 21. They're recommending sales at 25. There's solid medical evidence to show the developing brain still happens until about the age 25. And so even recommending that sales should happen at that stage. They're also recommending that you shouldn't advertise high potency THC. I think ultimately a big harm, adults and kids, but I think particularly kids, is the high potency. When I was in high school 20 years ago, there was no vape pens. There was no 95% THC marijuana. It's a vastly different market today, and it's frankly a dangerous drug. It can harm many, and in particular, it still harms adults. I mean, CDC points about 3 in 10 users will have cannabis use disorder. So certainly looking at a range of spectrum. But
what does that mean, cannabis disorder, Dan, in your view? What does that mean?
It means harm by marijuana use. And in particular, there are people that will become addicted to marijuana, particularly using the high potency. That's adults, and it's also kids. And we are seeing there's a higher rate of kids who become addicted, especially using these high potencies, because of the factors of the developing brain and just a younger age. It's having more of a detrimental impact. So it does harm adults and kids alike, but certainly the evidence is showing, more kids are harmed, particularly by using these, vape pens. I mean, kids can be in class and it can be vaporless. They can do it in front of, teachers without them knowing. I mean, that's so different than when I was in school. And so we're seeing
but
a rise.
that negates, though, this argument, though, that we saw in Jersey, Maryland, and I think Delaware, of adults wanting to have this. And again, you can undercut that with alcohol, right? We don't want kids to be drinking at a certain age, yet adults want to drink.
Well, I think we should certainly kind of define some of the terms. We have Mike Regan, Senator Regan, who was kind of leading an effort last session. He never brought up a bill, but had several hearings. He kept saying, we have this choice of either the illegal cartels, people that want to chop your heads off, or we legalize the market. That's just a false dichotomy. We should have a variety of different discussions. SAMHSA, looks at 4 different areas of this issue. You either can have it illegal, you can have it fully legalized, commercialized, you can have it legal for medical use, or you can decriminalize. Looking at the criminal justice aspect. Those are 4, very different conversations. And so I think when you just say, hey, we just want illegal sales if we continue this way, or you just want to, commercialize it, I just think that's not the conversation to be had.
Okay,
and
my
I
producer Dan had a question for you, Dan.
Yeah, Dan, one of the things, again, I got to say, I'm, pro with state votes on it. I'm pro marijuana if they want it. But one of the things that bothers me about New Jersey legalizing it is, from what I know, there's still no way to instantly test if a driver is under the influence of marijuana.
Well, that's a problem, right?
So I'm just curious, with your depth of knowledge that you have you ever looked at numbers before and after marijuana legalization, and whether car accidents have gone up, or if there's anything on the roads to worry about?
Well, I think you could, talk with AAA, talk with the District Attorney Association, talk with the Chiefs of Police Association, those that are involved in some of these, public safety areas. They're all opposed because they see evidence of increased, accidents, fatalities. There is absolutely evidence this past year making headline news, studies being done, increased traffic accidents, fatalities, ER visits by children, rates of asthma rising, inpatient care rising in some of these issues, lung disease, psychosis. There is growing evidence to show the harms that's happening. In particular, I would put public safety and those on the roads. And yeah, again, AAA. These are they're not the high times. This isn't marijuana moment. These are areas that deal with public safety that are very much opposed to commercialization. So I think we should be listening to them.
Dan, where do we find the Pennsylvania Family Alliance?
Yeah, Pennsylvania Family Institute, that's pafamily.org is our website.
Say it again one more time, Dan, please.
Yeah, pafamily.org is our website, Pennsylvania Family Institute.
Dan, thank you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Tom.
All right, 855-839-1210. I don't know we ever got to the debate where I was going, which is the liberty issue, the freedom issue of adults. There are downsides to this. We know it. I'm not sure in New Jersey how they rectified. I'd have to look it up. The potency thing. Christie has made that argument before.
Another angle comes in on Twitter. Marijuana use is unenforceable. We should stop throwing good money after bad and instead get some return on it by taxing it. While it might be psychologically addictive, it's not physically addictive like opioids.
Well, true versus opioids, but I don't know that's, you got to concede there is a damage issue, and the drunk driving or driving inebriated part of it still is something unsettled. But
that's the thing that worries me the most.
Yeah, but in the end, this ought to be a referendum. This ought to be on the ballot. I'd like to see the vote on it. My prediction is, I'm not sure. My prediction is in Pennsylvania, I think it would be pretty close. So here, if it were on the ballot at this point in time, say coming up in November, as it was in Jersey, would it pass? Would you vote for it? Despite all the downsides. There are downsides. 855-839-1210. You get on board. Let's talk about something that people are voting with their feet for, our big trip to Italy. That's right. Join me this summer in Italy. Rome, Florence, Tuscany, Venice.
There it is.
Milan, the stunning Lake Maggiore at the foot of the Alps. Italy, you'll see why if you've never been. It's the most revisited country in the world. And part of it Conservative Tours. They cater to talk radio audiences. That's why they're conservative tours. And they know you don't want that tourist type of feel. You want it to be comfortable but authentic. Great hotels, sumptuous dinners, all the wine you can handle. Conservative Tours has a plus rating with the BBB. And they're going to bring us not only those biggies that I told you about, like the Colosseum, Michelangelo's David, the Vatican, everyone's favorite magical romantic Venice. We'll visit medieval villages like Oriveto and authentic balsamic farm. Soak up the warm afternoons rolling along the back roads of Tuscany. And again, the wine, the food, it's all there. Just give them a call now at 888-733-9494, 888-733-9494, or go to conservativetours.com, conservativetours.com. All right, it's Tom Giordano's show, both on Talk Radio 1210 and also on our YouTube channel. And for people that particularly over lunch hour, Dan, what do they do if they want to have fun every day?
Yeah,
watching what we're doing.
Come join us at youtube.com/@1210WPHT. Please subscribe as well. I'm on there now as well. Also some conversation going on, which I love to see. One of my biggest things about TV shows is discussion boards. I always check out discussion boards after TV shows and love to discuss what's being said on there. That's kind of going on right now on the YouTube channel. So if you want to kind of discuss the show with some like-minded individuals as well, it's a great place to do so.
My only objection to the guy we had on, there are some arguments still to be made. Jersey heard those arguments. Let people vote on this. That's the way we ought to go, rather than this is an issue where a referendum, a vote on the ballot is the way it should go. Think it would pass in Pennsylvania at this point, but it would be close. All right, we talked about the surveillance cameras and this kid shot at the place that was the big launch of the surveillance cameras.
Irony.
Joan Cullen, our buddy, made a great point saying maybe the younger you are, say under 35, pick whatever age you want, you're more used to various social media, cameras, etc., that to you it's not a big of a deal. In other words,
I think I can agree with
yeah,
that.
and if you're a bit older, then it is a bigger deal because you didn't experience this surveillance state. We didn't have the technology. And there's a sense, enough already, it doesn't make us safer. In the end, that's the bottom line, versus you got to concede that you're giving something up. I mean, the argument, what are you giving up if you're not doing anything wrong? Why can't I surveil you? The argument is because you don't have the right to do it. This has to be very limited, and you better be able to prove it is such an emergency and effective. It is an emergency, but I don't think it's effective, and this is evidence of it. The kid just walks up right there in the play gyms and blasts this other kid yesterday at 4:15 in the afternoon.
Terrible.
If we don't have the people will go for things if they view the basics are right. For example, COVID. In the beginning, that first month, I saw the wisdom of masking, of lockdowns, of shutdowns, and all that. But then after it became apparent, after a period of time, the overkill of this, and they wouldn't give it up, the other side, then it tells you something. It's more about control than it is science. So are these surveillance cameras in Philadelphia evidence? The big three weren't out there saying, this camera's we're going to get you. Surrender now. They're not doing any of that because they don't care on this. Krasner's doing exactly what he wants. All right. Big 1 o'clock hour. Jeff Van Drew will be in the show a little bit later on. The Inquirer is doing a poll. They announced a poll will be done by the Committee of 70 on the mayor's race. There's just one fly in the ointment. I'll tell you what that fly is coming up. Hey, for all seafood, wrong here. Why am I going to Captain Chucky's without making a stopover?
Got to get those teeth checked out.
And yes, the teeth had to be ready to go with Dr. Bentz. I'm not sure of the order. Everything is thrown off here. What the heck did I do? Yes. Some order was miscalculated. I'll blame an intern here. All right. Let's talk about Dr. Bentz. Yesterday was over Dr. Bentz's, and we were working on a video special with him. He talked at length about being a problem solver. In other words, he's not just routinely, it's like an assembly line or something, dealing with your long-term oral health. He solves problems, some of them at times very, very difficult, some of the patients I've sent him. And we also talked, he's back into doing sedation dentistry on a more fuller level. If either of those interests you, well, Dr. Bentz is the place to go. We also talked about National Prosthodontics Week and how the prosthodontist versus the regular dentist is one who can design that customized plan for your long-term oral health and give you the smile that you've always dreamed of. And that's Dr. Bentz. As he always says, if something is bothering you, take care of it now before it gets worse. We visited his on-site lab. Now 2 people manning that because it gives you such benefit. Everything is done right there. Between patients or, going to lunch, and he can check, Dr. Bentz, and see your teeth being made. This is a huge advantage. My dentist can be yours, Dr. Bentz. Get that initial evaluation. Go to thebentzdentalgroup.com or call 610-272-6949. Book your appointment today, thebentzdentalgroup.com, 610-272-6949.